Hello, Gravitrons. I'm more gravity. Let's play chess. take a look to see if we had board on either of these on any of these other three games. I think I'm gonna have board here. I kind of worked a draw, so we'll go over that. This game looks like it just pretty much got beat. This game was a little bit closer, but mostly a straightforward win for white. So let's look at the game that I won and the game that I drew. This is the game that I won. I mean, what's there to say? Fairly even for about 8 moves, I'd say, 9 moves. Then it gets difficult to predict. And some of these moves, there's all kinds of different factors here. Black has a potentially unsafe king. White has some issues in the same way. Black is more developed. White has better control of the center. White's ability to use the H file is a big deal, noting that Black has his rook protecting the pawn there, but you know there's been even trades of material, and White has all these squares for his rook. So this to me indicates that White should attempt for a kingside attack, to attack Black's kingside. If you want to maybe get in, I know I didn't do this in the game, but I might have wanted to play pawn to f4 and gone on to play pawn to f5. Like this knight will retreat in some manner. Then he played pawn to f5 and just tear things open while all this space is working against Black. Bishop to g5 is a decent move, puts a pin on the knight there. Still, I think we could make better use of time here as White by pawn to f4. So f4 is getting a lot of attention here from Torch 4 as well. As one of these moves are almost all equally strong for White, and it's the 4th best move available. So yeah, I'd say play f4 next time, more gravity. Play f4 next time, more gravity. Play f4 next time. Instead, I played for this pin, and the kingside castle puts Black's king in a position where he's not all that safe. We've got a light squared bishop that could end up giving checks on either d5 or c4. A queen that might give checks on from b3, from c4, from d5. This diagonal is, it's loose. There's no good. Black has no good control of that diagonal, and White has the power and the type of pieces to prove it. I chose to go first for knight to d5. Now I might have over evaluated my chances at winning the f6 knight. Look, yes, he's pinned to the queen, and it's a horrible pin, by the way. This pin has really become very horrible for Black, very strong for White. So we're trying to pile on pieces, but then take a step back, more gravity. Look that knight is defended, and defended, and can be defended again. So there's a strong pin against it, but it's just so well defended that it's not the greatest point of pressure. Okay, I might replay this game, and instead of knight to d5, just knight f3, or even as I saw later in the game, as I played later in the game, knight to h3, eyeing the e6 square. And this could become very valuable for White based on how some of Black's pieces are distanced from the e6 square. I like the back pedal here. Knight d7, Black says, look, I'm in no hurry. And computer says it's a good move, I agree. Black is saying, look, I'm not I'm in no hurry. The bishop on c8's blocked, but b6 and b, bishop to b7, and all of a sudden he's in the game. All right, or even in some cases a move to a6 to influence different squares. So this bishop is not really blocked in all that bad by knight to d7. Like I said, just black can here black can defend the f6 knight 4 times and just be sure of things. Black's a little cramped. I'll say, yeah. I think that's true. Black is cramped. Back rank, pawn rank, and 1 rank forward against, white has 2 pieces in opponent's territory, and a lot of other kinds of space. Not necessarily here on the d file, not necessarily space behind a pawn, but this is space that favors white nonetheless. And I would say that about a lot of the h file as well. Okay, so knight to h3, pawn c6, knight to f4. Doesn't this confuse things a bit? Wasn't the best move I see here, the indication, but I had lost to this player. We drew, and we drew on a board that he had the superior chances. I think that I lost to him 3 times. And I was sick of it, so I thought maybe I ought to shake things up, and knight to f4 does a lot in that direction. Queen to e8 steps out of the potential for a fork. The knight might come in here to e6 and try to fork these pieces, like I was saying. And I thought that this simply steps into another fork on c7, and I see that this computer is highlighted as a great move, and so was also computer best move, and the fork is still there in a different shape. So things get kind of tricky here with queen takes e4. All right, I see. We know from hindsight is 2020. It's a good saying. Hindsight is 2020. But at the time, queen takes e4 kind of shocked me. I felt like I was gonna lose my fork, where I could win a rook or the exchange. Right? Queen takes e4 is one of those moves that you have to look at as not expected, not necessarily the computer best move, but also a fine move, causing shock and surprise. Right? Sometimes you have to play your opponent. Usually you play the position, or in my way of playing chess, I usually play the position, but sometimes you have to play your opponent. It's interesting. I sort of showed that with this move back here, knight to f4, and my opponent said, here, I'll play the opponent as well. This move, queen to e4, was unexpected. I went on to capture on a8. It's not, by computer, it's not that bad of a move. And just before that, here with white to move, this is a seriously complicated board right now. Right, with white to move, first of all, just move consideration. Knight to e6 has to be considered. That's a strong move, right? Capturing on a8 has to be considered. We've got minor pieces floating out here, about halfway up the board, and this knight would be lost for the covering move, save for that it's kind of like there happens to be a bishop on g5 protecting. Oh yeah, I'll cover you. Just let me know when it's best to do so. This is not a normal type of coverage. The knight's almost loose. This pawn is barely held together by the bishop that's pinned, and so still held together because the piece pinning the bishop is the same one attacking the pawn at c4. This position is wild. Wild. Totally wild. Wild positions lead to uh, a whole bunch of things. Mistakes and blunders, mistakes, blunders, misses, and inaccuracies. They lead to wild positions lead to that, and also some of that arising out of just pure difference of opinion. It's sometimes one move is great and so is another. Which one's better is a difference of opinion, or neither moves are all that bad or all that good. They're both interesting, but which one's better? Now we're talking difference of position difference of difference of position in a way too, but difference of opinion on certain positions. Sometimes top chess players can argue a certain moment in a famous World Chess Championship, a certain move 28 with black to play or something, whatever it is. They can argue this way, that way, and the other way, over and over and over again. I teach chess very often as if there's a correct position for each, or as if there's a correct move for each position. I like to teach as if there's a correct move for each position, but that's not always true. That's just not always true. Wild positions are more likely to have those. Wild positions are more likely to have multiple moves receiving serious consideration and, if you will, votes for which move is actually best. This is one of these rare games that had that, and so from me to my opponent, I'd say, thank you. This was a pleasure of a game to play. So I chose to put my opponent to the task. Pawn to f3. This is clearly directly offering a fork. Some way my opponent will save his queen. Not there, but however he does, I might capture on g4. And to be honest, I think I just lost my focus here. I would have played pawn takes g4. I was counting on it. Yeah, f takes g4 is really the way to go here. We'll come back to that and play that as it could have happened like this type moment. But for right now, queen to d6. What was I hunting here, or trying to hunt here? I knew that it wasn't about the pawn grab. I'm at least at that. There's I think just that it misses. It's marked as a blunder, but we could think of it in a way as missing. F takes g4, a full piece. So anyway, we soldier on. We found ourselves a scary move. Torch is shrugging it off, saying queen a5 gets us out of the deal. So queen to a5 is queen to a5 check. That's how the rook stays on the board. And I meet with b4, and why b4 is not a good move, you got me. Maybe I could have moved to f1 and just accepted some sort of inferior king safety position. But I played b4, and here comes black. Counter attack. Here comes black. Counter attack. Bishop to c3 check. Blunders, mates and threes. Here comes this, a blunder. Not quite, moves me to a mate and two. And then forward here, and I thought, I was looking, okay, any safe square that other than the one that I know leads to checkmate, and I'm looking around and I said, no, they're all covered. So b1 is actually forced. And I don't know if my opponent was being generous or trying to get a little cheeky with, or maybe made a mistake, some type of miss with bishop takes a1. It's a bit of heartbreak for my opponent, and I feel relief myself, having played a number of games without a win today. And here in, I think, what is game 5 or 6 of the day for me, I played, I played king takes a1. I'm still thinking he'll just smash through with the knight here, and then mate on b2. Each here they will smash through with the knight, and then when I move, it's mate on b2 or something. I'm not exactly sure. Wait, hold on. Check. I go to b1. This piece needs covering, so you probably play queen to b3 check. No forced mate. Right, because after queen to b3, king to d2, well, perhaps d1, though at d1 there's discovered attacks to be worried about. No forced mate, but black is gonna crush white in this position. So I thought, here we go, queen to c3, and then king to b1, but I still would have thought that queen to c2 here would be the most direct way for a win for black. I'm sorry if I'm digging the dagger even deeper. If these all miss, your opponent thinks logically anyway that knight to e5, I'll just bring in another piece and that'll be it. There's some fans of hip hop will notice the similarity between that sentence and when Notorious B.I.G. At the end of Dying to Live, great song featuring both Tupac and Biggie. It's kind of how Biggie talks about Tupac's death in an interview that was then replayed and placed at the end of Dying to Live. Anyway, so that's them, right? This is me here, decidedly not being interviewed. Well, yeah, not yet. Where was I? That knight to e5 is a blunder because of the immediate queen to f8 checkmate. These things happen. Great players sometimes have these things happen. I mean, look at all this force going down and how white's king is bare and everything. But these things happen. Sometimes, you know, you spend a game on your toes. Anyway, I had fun. I thought it was a great game. I liked winning, so I'm not all that upset about knight to e5 in the long run and all that. I played this immediately, and that's checkmate. Got my win for the day, or at least the first win for the day. All right. So, thank you all for watching. Thank you, Gravitrons. I'm more gravity. Have a great night.